Okay, so today we are going to be talking about season 2 of The Legend of Korra, the season that I was warned exhaustively was horrible and that I would hate. And I enjoyed it. I have a lot of criticism for this season, but I liked it better than season 1. So, cue the rage. It took me over a month to get through this season, and almost all of that time took place in the first half of the season, and then the second half I flew through in 3 days, which is a big deal for me because I'm not much of a TV person. So watching 7 episodes in 3 days, or even maybe 8 episodes in 3 days, is a big deal for me. So I really enjoyed the second half. Like I said, I still have a lot of criticism. I don't think that it was incredible, amazing, wonderful, but I had a good time in the second half of it. And I'm going to talk about that. But first, we're going to talk about a lot of things that I didn't like because we're going to talk about the first half of the season first. Now, I want to be clear. I didn't hate the first half of the season. I thought it was fine. Okay. Not something I cared that much about, but not the end of the world. It's just for someone like me who I don't care to watch TV, and I have to make time for it. It's not my choice of a way to relax. So I don't want to make time for something that I'm only half enjoying. And that was how I felt about the first season. The first season, well, first of all, I'm not Korra's biggest fan, the character. I complained about her plenty in my last review, but that was a while ago, so let me remind you. I find her to be your standard, bullheaded, stubborn, rush into danger, learn some generic lesson that that lesson doesn't carry over into the next episode, so you're going to continue doing the same stuff kind of character. I didn't feel like she brought anything new to this character that she was playing. She was just that standard, bullheaded, stubborn character. In season 2, she managed to be worse. She was all of those things except also a brat. And yeah, she had a lot going on. She was dealing with all the stuff with her uncle, and then she learned a whole lot of information that her dad had been keeping from her, learned a lot of information about her training that everyone had been keeping from her, and all that paired with a new relationship that she was trying to navigate. So yeah, there was a lot going on for her, and there's a lot going on in her life in general, so she deserves a little bit of angst. Even a moderate amount of angst. But oh my goodness, the girl jumped to so many conclusions and snapped at everyone in her path, even people that were actually being cool. Like Mako, I'm not his biggest fan. I think that Mako is terrible at relationships, and he, in general, is pretty boring. But boy, the man did not deserve to be snapped at, whether he breathed or not, around Korra. On top of all that, it was such a busy first half of the season. We had so much going on. We had Korra and her drama with her uncle and trying to open up the spirit portals, which was actually interesting. We had Mako and his new job on the police force. We had Bolin and his drama with his new relationship, which was hilarious and voiced by April from Parks and Rec. So win. As well as him becoming a movie star, which did introduce that really eccentric guy who I've forgotten the name of, but I love him so much. He was a great addition to the season. More of him, please. Asami and her family business trying to rescue it and having a whole lot of roadblocks along the way. Tenzin and his family drama between his siblings as well as with his kids between their siblings, which I liked Tenzin's drama with his siblings because it added a lot to being able to see some of the flaws in Aang, how he was so focused on his one airbender child and didn't balance that very well, and then that created a disbalance between the siblings. I thought that was pretty interesting. I like that part. But overall, there were so many different things that we were trying to tackle within about 6 episodes, and really none of those things got enough attention for them to be executed well. The only things that I cared about were the only things that actually carried over. Yeah, let's talk about that too. Not only were the first 6 episodes super disjointed and too much was happening at once, but so much of it wasn't even valuable by the end of the season. Maybe a lot of it will be pulled back in seasons 3 and 4, but by the end of the season, what mattered? The new guy, the eccentric guy that I really like, Korra and her spirit business that was happening, and Tenzin and his family business that was happening. These are the things that mattered. So the amount of time that we ended up spending on Mako's police stuff, Asami's family business stuff, Bolin's movie stuff, I couldn't care less about Bolin's movie stuff. The amount of time that was spent on these things that by the end didn't even have a satisfying conclusion was frustrating. And I will say I've been made very aware that Nickelodeon kind of sabotaged Korra, and the writers were regularly forced to wrap things up quicker than they thought they needed, and telling them, okay, this is your last season, and then giving them more seasons later. So a lot of the messiness I understand is Nickelodeon's fault, and that's really frustrating. I wish I could have seen this show done the way the writers really envisioned it done in every aspect, but I'm still going to criticize it because this is still the way it was given to me, so I get to have opinions on it. Basically, the first 6 episodes, I think it was 6, I don't know, it might have been 7. The first several episodes were very disjointed, had way too much going on to feasibly actually make it satisfying, and then a lot of it wasn't satisfying in the end. I hope it plays back, but also I kind of hope it doesn't, because I don't care about Bolin's movie career. But then we get into when we finally get the origin of the original Avatar. Those 2 episodes I loved so much. I have already watched Tim's video on why he doesn't like those 2 episodes, and I think it's super valid and totally respect those opinions, but they are not mine. Oh my goodness, I loved these episodes. I enjoyed learning about how the first Avatar was created and why. I loved the imagery of Rava and Vaatu. I loved their imagery, that they were the parallel of yin and yang. And while I do agree with Tim that it is in some levels a shallow representation of if evil is left to roam freely, then it'll naturally take over, and we must have the good we must have evil locked up and have good roam, and only good roam, in order for the world to have balance, which that's not balance. So I love the attempt, and while I agree that it wasn't perfect, I still loved it. I at first had issue with the lion turtle passing out powers, because that kind of disrupts the original benders teaching the original people who had bending ability, teaching them how to bend. So it does disrupt that, and I don't love that, but it kind of still works if the lion turtle is the one passing out the powers, but they can't keep their powers. And then after Juan becomes the Avatar, then maybe people are allowed to keep their powers from then on, and the original benders, the dragon and the sky bisons, etc., teach them how to use their powers correctly. It's kind of how the dragon did with Juan after Juan got his powers and became part of the spirit world, and then he was fighting alongside the dragon. You have to squint with one eye and don't look out of the other to make it work, but which I'm super not like. I don't like when mythos doesn't fit nicely together. But while I don't think it was executed perfectly, I still loved it. I loved Juan as an avatar. I would have been thrilled if Korra, this whole season, this whole show was dedicated to Juan and his beginnings and his life as an avatar. I would be thrilled by that. I loved seeing the purpose of the Avatar, why the original Avatar was created, that the original Avatar bonded with Rava. And that's why the Avatar cycle goes on. That's why this one individual has the ability to bend all 4 elements. I love that the purpose of Juan from the beginning, even though he had a not like other girls complex like none I've seen in a while. I mean, that man said, "I'm not like other humans," like 4 times in 2 episodes. I loved seeing his bond with the spirits and how he had to fight for that and he had to work for that, and then understanding why the Avatar is the bridge from the spiritual world, the spirits and the humans. I love knowing this background. I loved knowing all this. It added so much depth to the original series, in my opinion. It added so much depth, and yes, there are flaws to it, and I wish I wish it were a little bit less messy, or we had gotten 4 episodes so that you could have at least explained it a little bit better so that it doesn't feel like it's a little bit feel like it doesn't really actually fit that well. I admit that even the parts of this season that I enjoyed have distinct flaws to them. So I get why people just reject it entirely. But knowing the original Avatar and knowing how this Avatar became the Avatar and why, I love it so. I think it adds so much to the story. I'm so happy with these episodes. And then everything that followed. I'll admit, when we were done with Juan and we went back to Korra, I was disappointed because I don't like Korra that much. I don't think that she's a very compelling character to follow at this point. I hope that changes. And while I did like those 2 episodes more than anything else in the season, the second half of the season where Korra she now has this information and is moving forward with it, I enjoyed this. We stopped focusing so much on some of the other side things that don't really get resolved satisfyingly. We do focus on them some, but we stop focusing on them as much. We get purpose behind the amount of time that we spent on Tenzin and his family. The kids developed so much. I found them really annoying in the first season, and I didn't want them in the next season. And they actually served a purpose, especially Jinora served a really amazing purpose in this season. I loved seeing that Tenzin and his siblings are starting to work through the turmoil that they have. I loved seeing Bumi actually do one of the things that he keeps claiming he does, and we see that there is validity to him and to him being a non-bender yet still being awesome. I loved Tenzin trying so determinedly to bring Korra into the spiritual realm, but he can't do it, and then Jinora does it. I loved seeing Iroh in the spiritual realm. I loved that. The imagery of the spiritual realm, the colors, the way these creatures look and act, and again, the whole like light versus darkness conflict that happens is relatively shallow. I don't love that Vatu being loose means that these good spirits suddenly turn evil, and it's so easy for this shift to happen. I wish there was more depth to it. I wish there was more nuance to the conflict of good and evil. But I still really enjoyed myself despite having its flaws. I still liked it so much better than the first half of the season. I loved the role Jinora played. I loved the reality that she just was gifted at this. The second half of the season still has its distinct faults. Certain things were definitely rushed, like when Unawak captures Jinora, and he's like, I'm gonna steal her soul, and then Korra says, okay then, I'll do the thing that'll end the world, and there was really no, conflict or thought, or, Korra could have said, that's your only bargaining chip, you're probably not gonna toss it to the side the second you get it. I have the power. There could have been more, but certain scenes, certain conflicts were just barreled through, and I don't like that. Also, sometimes I questioned why things were being done the way they were done. Jinora had been lost in the spirit world for all of 2 seconds after Korra got back when they moved her body and panicked, and they were like, we're losing her soul! And it's like, she's been gone for no time whatsoever, and you just took away her link back. So if she tried to come back to the physical realm right now, she can't, because you took the body and she doesn't know how to find it. Why would you panic so quickly? I understand that Korra saw her be taken away, and so the likelihood of her being able to get back to the physical realm are not great. It's not great. But I feel like immediately moving her body was dumb. Why not go get Kaya and bring her to Jinora so Kaya can decide, what shall we do here? No, let's just take the body away. Love triangles. They're still present. Now, I'm thrilled that they're less present. The triangle with Tenzin, his wife, and Toph's daughter. I forgot her name because she really wasn't relevant in this season at all. That is gone. We're done talking about it. Bolin, Mako, and Korra, gone. We're done talking about it. The Korra, Mako, and Asami triangle still lives. and is somehow worse, because now Korra and Mako don't even really have a connection at all, but they're still kind of fighting for it, but also kind of not. And then Mako is still being really bad at relationships, and he's dating Asami the second Korra is gone, but then when Korra comes back, he lies to Korra about their relationship status, and then just like, I don't know, stops talking to Asami about it. He doesn't even like go to her and apologize or anything about that awkward situation. And then in the end, Korra is just like, yeah, we're done. So why did we even do it? Why did we even, it's fine. At least it wasn't a huge focus in the season. Which I want to talk about Asami, because my girl's been done dirty. I still think that Asami, actually, I'll say, I still think that the characters in this whole series at this point, there aren't very many that I find very interesting or very developed. There are so many characters that I feel like they just exist and they don't really have anything that draws me to them. Mako is a great example of this. He's the pretty boy. That's where his layers end. In this season, he was the pretty boy who's also out to do good, but he's not really much of a well-rounded character. Asami was that in season 1, but she actually showed that she's cool in this season. She is a fighter, and in every situation that she gets involved in, she is a force to be reckoned with. And not only that, the way she handled this love triangle mess that she's in, which she has been really good this entire time, yet she's been the victim every single time the love triangle comes up. She's handled it with so much poise and dignity. Like in the beginning of the season, she's still friends with everyone and she's still moving forward. She doesn't have bitter feelings. She's not turning into the crazy ex, which I was afraid she was going to do. And then in the end, when she's betrayed again by Mako, slapped in the face practically again by Mako, she just kind of brushes it off and keeps moving forward. Again, if she gets the crazy ex narrative, I'm gonna be mad. But at this point, Asami's really cool, but I feel like she's written so poorly because she has so many great qualities, but she's still just kind of that cute conflict. She's that hot girl that is there for conflict, and she hasn't really gotten her own arc. And that's frustrating. I feel like she's bland, but she doesn't deserve to be bland because there's so much potential to make her more. And I'm frustrated with the way she's written so far. I still have a lot of complaints. So I guess when I come into this review saying I enjoyed it, I'm more saying, wow, I'm surprised I didn't hate it and I liked it better than season 1. You guys really convinced me I was gonna hate this thing. But I still have a lot of complaints. I still think that there's a lot of flaws in this season, but man, I thought it was a step up from the first season, which I feel like so many people told me I wouldn't feel. All right, skip to the end. We had an epic battle face-off, which I have some complaints, I have some positives, but really I'm just gonna skip it all. Editing Murphy here. I changed my mind. I don't want to completely skip this, though I still don't want to talk about it a lot because I mostly didn't like the conclusion to this season, which, you know, it was rushed. We've already talked about why Nickelodeon kind of sabotaged things. There were a few things that I did like. I liked the face-off between the brothers. I liked that Korra lost her connection with all the avatars. I thought that that was a really interesting consequence to introduce, and I'm curious to see what they do with that in the future. But for the most part, I didn't like this conclusion at all, especially her shooting lasers out of her chest as just the, okay, we win now, sort of. I didn't, it was very rushed and I didn't like it. So there you go. And get straight to the fact that Korra made the decision to keep the spirit realm, the spirit portal, I don't remember what they called it, keep it open and let the spirit realm and the physical realm work together and people and spirits can go back and forth at will. I really like this decision because it logically makes sense that Korra would go there, that Korra would think this is the right decision. I like this decision in theory. I like the idea of the spirit world and the physical world being united, but I also like the reality of the consequences that would come with it. Evil people will now be able to enter the spirit realm, and and do bad things, try to colonize it, try to harm spiritual things, try to take advantage of spiritual things. Evil spirits will now freely be able to enter the physical world and cause chaos. The reality of not everything is all hunky-dory, so having these two realms open to each other will cause chaos as well as harmony. I'm excited that there's another season because I'm excited to see how that goes. I hope it's handled well. It seems like my comments, the majority of people, which people are individual, so there's a lot of opinions out there, but it seems like the majority of my comments say that seasons 3 and 4 are the strongest. And the majority of comments say that season 2 is the weakest. And so far, I enjoyed season 2 more than season 1, so I really don't know how I'm gonna feel, but I'm excited to see the consequences of this decision. I'm excited that it rightfully looks hopeful, but it should also have a lot of conflict. Overall, I think I rated Korra season 1 2 stars. I said I thought it was below average. It was a disappointment. It wasn't horrible, but I was bummed with the amount of potential that just kind of didn't get used. Season 2, I want to rate it a 3.5. I think that it's still super flawed. I still have tons of complaints, but I genuinely enjoyed the second half of the season. I wanted to keep watching. I wasn't doing it to continue having Avatar discussions because I love talking Avatar with you guys. I continued it because I was excited to see what would happen next, and I think that's awesome. I'll also explain and remind everybody that my rating, the way I'm rating this is skewed because the reality is that this is a sequel to the original Avatar series, and Korra, the Legend of Korra, will not stop reminding me of that by constantly pulling my nostalgia into it. Hello Iroh, hello General Iroh, hello flashbacks to other main characters. The Legend of Korra will not stop reminding me, I'm trying to enact your nostalgia to make you like me more. I can't separate it. I want to separate it because despite its flaws, it's still visually beautiful. The overarching story, the storylines that actually are relevant in the end are really well done. Still flawed, still has problems, but it was a good time. So if I treat Korra not as a sequel and just as its own entity, then we're having some different discussions. But the fact that it is linked to Avatar and that The Legend of Korra will not stop reminding me, hey, this is that series you loved so much just a little while later. The fact that it keeps reminding me of that means that I can't forget it. So it is still a sequel, and the fact that it doesn't fit perfectly with the original, the fact that the mythology that they're giving me, that they're adding onto it is cool and does add to it, but it also doesn't fit just right. These are things, these are things that we have to discuss. And maybe I missed some things, like I'm still a fairly new Avatar fan, so it's definitely possible that I'm wrong with some of these criticisms of how it doesn't perfectly fit with the original. And I'm totally down with discussing that in the comments. But anyway, that was my experience. I just finished the last episode and then sat down to talk. So it was a very, rambly and not, usually I kind of try to get my thoughts together and then talk, but this time I'm just letting you know how I felt. I know that The Legend of Korra in general has a lot of feelings attached to it, so sorry if I disappointed you, but also, this is how I felt, so not gonna lie. Hopefully my review for season 3 will not take over a month to get to you because I'm excited to start it. I'm excited to start watching it. I really hope we get more from Korra. We actually, in this season, near the end, actually got some development out of her. She actually learned from the stuff that happened in that she finally started trusting Tenzin and rebuilt her relationship with him after being a bullheaded brat. Again, I know there are a lot of people that actually genuinely like Korra, so sorry about that, but I don't care for her at this point. A lot of people have said that seasons 3 and 4 are the best in this series, so I'm excited. I still think that the original Avatar series is a million times superior at this point, but I don't know. I'm excited to see what comes next. Anyway, be sure to continue chatting with me about this all in the comments. What did I get wrong? What do you agree with or disagree with? I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon.